Okay, so today we're going to briefly go through how to use Ollama, or OpenLlama. That's been a great open source project for the AI community. And so anybody can go find it, particularly great for the fact that it does Windows, Mac, and Linux. So on the left-hand side, just a regular old browser thing. Right-hand side is referred to as an Integrated Development Environment, or IDE. I use what's called NeoVim, and all that is just a fancy way of saying there are specific programs on your computer that you use to write programs that are effectively cornered off from everything else. Their sole purpose is to write the programming in such a way that it doesn't affect other parts of your computer unless you intend it to. So Ollama, you can search in any browser, right? So again, I'm using Google on Microsoft's Edge for the actual search engine, and then we click it, and just for ease of this screen will pop up. Left-hand side is their blog, where they put things out. They have Discord, and they also have GitHub, which is right here. So GitHub is the repository, or really that's one way of putting it, the place that people put all of their code in the open source community, and a lot of the proprietary closed source community as well. But when folks want to share what they're doing, they put it onto GitHub. And so, just to orient you quickly, we have the who made it and the specific repository, and then we go down, same site, ollama.com. It tells you what version that they had, and this can be very overwhelming for folks. Don't worry about all of this. This is just them showing all the different folders that they have, and basically the inner workings. When people say things are open source, that means that they've put the code in some way, shape, or form onto the internet for everybody to be able to see. But seeing the code and knowing how it actually works, two very different things, right? So again, the point isn't to say, okay, I have to understand all this. No. The point is that you see that this is open source, that anybody can look through all the code they want to. So whether you have no idea what programming is, or have been coding for a long time, both are accessible. And then on the bottom right here, one really nice thing about GitHub is the fact that it will tell you what all the different components are, like how the code on the left-hand side here, how it's all been. So mostly it is in this programming language referred to as Go, or Golang. And down here, more so on the development side, programming side, is they tell you with each of the different repositories how to be able to install these different platforms, or these different services. Because most of GitHub is just different softwares, different packages, different programs that are being shown. And the nice thing about Ollama, really, its main appeal, where we really see the AI community shifting, is the fact that it runs these AI microservices. So you don't have to spin up your own model. They've gone and done that for you. So they've taken all these open source models and they've containerized them, made them small and accessible in their service, and wrapped it all up into something that's very easy to download. So you see Llama 2, that's Meta AI. You see Mistral, that's from Mistral AI. You see Dolphin Phi. Really, anything with Dolphin means that it has been uncensored. The Phi is from Microsoft. I can't remember where Neural Chat's from. Starling, escaping me to Llama, that's Meta again, Llama 2 uncensored. Orca, that is from Microsoft. Vicuña, that is, if I remember correctly, Llama, but that runs the Stanford Labs. Lava is Llama, but made into a vision model, and Gemma are the open source versions of Google's Gemini that recently just came out. So, right, and the nice thing too is for those who happen to be familiar with the code or just want to learn, because right, anybody can learn. Self-taught myself here, is I'll give you typically step-by-step guides on how to actually import models from Hugging Face. Again, but can't make this clear enough. You do not need to know and all these things here of, okay, this is how I do all this, and even to get all this code to then run it, you also then have to have servers or server equivalent systems. You have to understand how all the information is going, where all the different software, hardware components link together, which again, all doable, but it really is the combination of all the things together that make AI such a big moat. The more you happen to understand it, right? And there's lots of different open source ways of viewing this, but most importantly is the fact that when we go here, right? So again, going back to ollama.com, multiple ways to get there, and then going here. So I've already made an account and logged in. Anybody can do that, and let's just go to models. So again, anybody can look at the models here and find these. Let's just look at lava, right? So updated some weeks ago. I'll tell you all about it, and then how to use it now. So the smart thing that Ollama did, and that a lot of folks have on the developer side that makes sense, is that you interact with it directly from what's referred to as the terminal or the command line interface. So, right, for example, Ollama list. So once it's running, it's like mine is set to run in the background. And I've downloaded all these different open source models. So, right, you see the name, Backlava, that is a uncensored image model version of Meta's Lava model as the ID. So again, each individually tied. And then how big it is, 4.7 gigabytes. And then when it was last modified, right? So it keeps track of all that and updating it in real time. And the most important thing, though, is the fact that Ollama has what's called this, they've partnered with this organization called Nomic that has an embedding model. And this embedding model is used to take information, like, say, PDFs or PowerPoints or whatever, and turn it into data that is accessible to use for the model. A lot of times it's used for retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And so now, as opposed to having to pay directly for OpenAI or leave it to just whatever's on Hugging Face, there is actually use with this Nomic embedding model. But so, right, what we do here is, so I'm going to run particularly Dolphin Mixtral because, right, it's the mixture of experts model that's been uncensored. Again, the terminal or the command line interface is not anything to be nervous about. It is also, though, the interface that most directly speaks to your computer. So if one does not really know what they're doing, it's very easy to cause things to completely collapse. But that's why we're doing this today. So let's see, give me step-by-step instructions for how to download Visual Studio Code. Another great integrated development environment, or IDE, for anybody to use, and one that I've used previously, still occasionally use, but it's free, right? Best price there is. You know what? Let's make it simple. Just boop. All right. So this again is running locally on my system, and it goes through this line by line. So unlike, say, OpenAI or other models, excuse me, you can run this and it doesn't cost money for inference, which is when the model is used by a client, customer, whatever you want to call it, to get answers, that question, answer, question, answer. So it's typically, right, a very low price, but if you think of particular startups, the more you use a model that's, say, built on top of OpenAI's application program interface, or API, the quicker, or you very quickly run a very high tab. Let's say it costs 0.8 cents every time it runs a query, or every time it runs a question answer. Like one question, 0.8 cents. Well, times 1,000 questions a day, if there's no rate limit. Well, that quickly starts running up a very high tab, and then you times that by, let's say, 100 users. So 0.8 cents, 1,000 times a day, times 100 users, times 30 days in a month, times 12 months in a year. Very quickly, again, one single inference, one single use runs very high in terms of that. So Ollama is great because it allows us to sidestep a lot of that. And nice thing, right, is that for when one knows, understands the data sets and the way that these models work, we, through what on the interface, or on the inference side, we refer to as typically like prompt engineering. That's just understanding how to ask questions in the right way, or understanding where the data set is. So right here we have how to download Visual Studio Code, and whether you are using Mac, right, so MacBook Pro, and or Windows or Linux, right here, yeah, all free to use. But the way, right, you were going to want to go for stable insiders, that's a funny way of saying, hey, this is in beta, and you're going to see all the early features, which there might be a little bit of some glitches in here and there, but smart marketing. So stable, right, stable's good. And, or, you know, live on the model side, doesn't matter. Regardless, it's still going to be all the same, effectively the same extensions, the same program, the same interface, whatever. Inside is typically like green at baseline, stable is blue. That's really a big difference. So once you download that, then go through the rest of it, and then you can start running through. And like, right, this interface which you'll see here, and this screen you see here is from the extensions, which are basically just different plugins, different add-ons that you can put, and you can install different ones there. That is a whole other ball of wax. We'll get into that at a later point. The important thing is, right, that you understand, really from this, that get the answer to this technical question using this model that's running locally, that's from the open source community, that gave an answer that's tied to a trusted source of information in real time that I'm running locally at no cost to me. Free is the best price. And so that really is a big shift. And so it's not just about what model to produce, right? It's about the best models are the ones that align data, hardware, software. So you understand, you have domain expertise to know what quality is for data. You can understand the right systems, right computers. So like right now, my Ollama, I've set it so it makes use of my GPUs, my graphical processing unit, from NVIDIA, and I have all the right software aligned to that hardware, that application-specific chip, and then the use interfacing with it, right? And so, nice thing too is also, so we want to say goodbye, we say goodbye, and then nice thing too about this interface, or rather this IDE I use people always say things are lightweight. Well, this is very lightweight, and then I can still run things like, let's say I want to run Jupyter Lab, right? So, or Anaconda on here, which I'm running a Linux distribution referred to as Ubuntu. So that's what that little icon is up top here. And from that, in that distribution, which is just a version, so it's a separate operating system that's contained on my Windows 11 computer, right? So just regular old laptop. By having it through there, I can run these systems that are secure and with the cutting edge from the open source community, because that's really what Linux is. It's an open source framework. It came from that open source community. And so when I can download lighter weight versions of the big systems like Anaconda, I don't need all that graphical interface because I just know how to use it. So, right, and Anaconda is nice, or Miniconda, refer to it, it's nice because it then lets you just run it directly from that command line. You don't have to do anything else. So, Jupyter Lab, right, and then boop, 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 everything gets run up and runs to the server. Just avoid all that other mishigas, because all that pretty graphical layer with all the other stuff, well, that's nice, but I don't have to interact with that. And then, boop, just like that. And the nice thing too is we have this widget called IIE Kernel that we downloaded from Anaconda that lets us be able to, right, have this, everything that's been put into our Jupyter Lab and from our Anaconda environment, all those packages, all those different things, all those widgets, they're all already loaded and running directly through into our Jupyter Lab. And the nice thing too with that is then that means that my NVIDIA GPUs are powering this. Right? So I have these two GPUs here, and this is the driver, and blah, blah, blah. You see Ollama running with that. And then you can end up running, right? So anything you would typically use your GPUs to do, which is what all of deep learning is built on, is using NVIDIA GPUs with CUDA, their proprietary software that allows for high-performance compute to run, because it uses all those little tiny CUDA cores in the GPUs for that parallel processing, the vector math that drives deep learning, the floating point operations, right, is you're able to now use that on Jupyter Lab, which is the common interface that they teach in undergrad and so on, that actually has all those programs and everything, all those things built in that contained environment you typically need from the Anaconda that you're using for that interface, right? And then when we're done, well, you can go ahead and say shut down the kernel, which you don't have to, but we'll just do for this. And then in real time, we see that shutdown happening, and we can go and speed that up a little bit. Clear, and then there we go. And then Anaconda deactivates. Boop. Again, Ollama list. Is Ollama still working? Again, Jupyter Lab shut down. We don't have to mess with any of those things. Yep. Leave. Done. No muss, no fuss. Just easy peasy, right? Let's do Ollama 2. And we see here is that it's spinning that system up in order for us to then use it, and right with whatever the particular model is. So tell me a joke. Boop. Easy peasy. Well, until next time.